Usually. Well, great to be back in the Wausau area, north central Wisconsin, getting the good word out. And as we said, this is a razor-thin election. Every vote will count. The choice is real simple. If you want to have more jobs and higher wages, which is where we brought the state, record low unemployment, more people working than ever before, wage growth that outpaces the nation as a whole. If you want more jobs and higher wages, then I'm your candidate. If you want more spending and higher taxes, then you should vote for Tony Evers. But Tony's taxes will cost us jobs. Higher property, income, and gas taxes will cost us jobs, and I believe we'll be a recipe for returning to a recession. I believe the only reason this is close is because it's been the big lie out there that we've seen repeated across the country. They've targeted here as well on pre-existing conditions. We will always, always, always cover people with pre-existing conditions. People like my wife, like my mother, and like my brother who each have pre-existing conditions. For me, I'm going to cover them and everyone else like them in this state. And that's something we just take right off the table. We will always cover people with pre-existing conditions here in the state of Wisconsin. We can do that. We can protect people with pre-existing conditions without protecting the failure. There's Obamacare. It's why we took action to fix the problem with Obamacare. Got Democrats and Republicans together, and now premiums starting in January will go down by 4%. And from where they're at, by 10% from where they were headed, and that means a premium savings of about $1,000. So lower premiums, better choices, particularly in rural areas, better overall health care. That's the difference between our leadership and Tony's talk.
Governor Walker, today is the last day for people to register to vote before Election Day, and the latest Marquette poll shows that you and Tony Evers are tied. What are you doing to get voters or people to get out and vote?
Well, it's a combination of things. Again, it's so close, every vote will count without a doubt. And so it's coming to places like this where it's a combination of local activists really getting them enthused to go out, not just vote, but to find others to do the same. We know that when we get out the facts, when we get our fact sheet out, the people overwhelmingly say, oh, okay, that makes sense. Now I know the truth. If the truth is what the voters know, we win the election. If the lies are what they hear about and they don't hear the truth, then we're gonna lose. And so really it's a combination of motivating activists like some of the people who showed up today, combined with talking to many of the workers here who might be undefeated, I think of the Bucks, who might be undecided, talking to people at factories and businesses like this, to workers who might be undecided, and really getting the facts out. When people hear about things like pre-existing conditions and how we'll always cover them, then they go back and say, oh, well, the state's much better. We want to keep that going. That's how we win the election.
Well, Governor, there's polls and there's this and there's that, but at the end of the day, we're 4 days out from Election Day. How are you feeling?
We feel great. We tour around the state. Again, we're in a good vibe. We think momentum's heading in the right direction. We've got more people knocking on doors, more people making phone calls. We're going out and doing events like this. We're crisscrossing the state. You know, today's a good example. Started out in Wausau, went up to Rhinelander. We're here in Schofield. We're going to Plover next, and Wisconsin Rapids, and Altoona outside of Eau Claire, and La Crosse and Platteville yet today. So we're keeping up the pace. We're going to talk to voters. No one's going to outwork us, just like no one's going to outwork me once I'm governor again. We will visit people all over the state to make sure we're acting in their best interest.
You mentioned a bill that was passed in January regarding the pre-existing conditions. For people that, may still be on the fence about that, they might still be believing the attack ads, as you would call them. Talk about what that bill is and how it was passed, and did it have, bipartisan support?
Well, even beyond that, so Rebecca talked about what happened before, but I made it clear for the protections that are currently in law. So under the Affordable Care Act, to me, I want to make sure we keep the same protections that we have here in the state of Wisconsin for people living with pre-existing conditions, and we'll always do that. That's something that should the courts or the Congress ever change things, then that's not likely to happen until next year or sometime in the future. But we will always keep those same protections here in the state of Wisconsin. We can do that, and we've shown time and time again. The best example is what we did with the healthcare stability plan, where in reaction to the premiums going up under Obamacare, which was an absolute mess, we got both Democrat and Republican lawmakers to vote for our healthcare stability plan. We're going to do the same as we go forward to make sure people are covered with pre-existing conditions.
Governor Walker, I believe you said before that this is one of the closest elections that you ever ran in. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's simple. People know the state's heading in the right direction. The only thing holding them back from voting for us for another term is the lies that we hear about pre-existing conditions. If we get the facts out about pre-existing conditions, about how Tony's taxes will cost us jobs, about the investments we made into education to really prepare the workforce for the 21st century, we get the facts out. More people are working there than before. We have some of the best schools in the nation. Property taxes are lower on working families and senior citizens, and we will always cover people with pre-existing conditions. If those facts get out to the voters, we win this election.
You mentioned this race isn't personal between you and Tony. Obviously, if you win, Tony's still going to have his job. You'll still have to work with him. Feeling all right about that? Any
Sure,
problem?
we do. I do that right now. I do a lot of things with the city of Milwaukee to benefit the citizens of the city of Milwaukee, even though Tom Barrett ran against me twice. So to me, I got over it. I know, people talk nationally about being a contentious time, but I hope I've shown, remember, long before any of this national stuff, we had attacks, we had death threats against me and against my wife. My kids were targeted on Facebook. My parents, elderly parents, lived in our house when there were mobs of protesters taking over the street in front of our house. We know exactly what people are going through these days. That's why I spoke out so clearly when we saw problems nationally out there. Because to me, I never heard any of that from the other side when I was going through that. My family was going through that. To me, I think that's disgraceful. At any time someone's under attack, Democrats and Republicans should set things aside, forget about the political differences, and say, we live in a free society, and part of that is making sure that people can be safe and sound. The good news is we've gotten past all that, regardless of the fact that we didn't get the same in return in terms of people standing up and defending us. The bottom line is we got past all that. We brought the week after Democrats and Republicans together at our house in the legislature. We cooked out brats and burgers and had beer, and we do like a lot of people do in the state of Wisconsin. We brought people together over a beer and a brat and a good bit of food, and I'm sure we'll be able to do that again, not just between Tony and I working together, but working together with lawmakers in both parties.
All righty. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.